What's up, peers, and welcome to Bitcoin to the max. Oh, no, wait. It's actually not Bitcoin to the max. It's open source everything. The show here on the World Crypto Network. Oh, with so many shows, you just forget which one is which. But this is the show where we talk about true solutions and how to actually manifest change here in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and amazing software developers and hardware developers who actually work with Bitcoin and build some of the most beautiful technologies that we've ever seen here on this planet. And today I'm really honored to talk to a recurring guest on the World Crypto Network who has already showcased some of his tech with Ben, the BTC socialist, on a couple days, weeks ago here on the World Crypto Network. We're here with George. What's up?
How you doing? Nice to be on here with you, Max.
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to our conversation because you have built some amazing tech already. But before we get into that, maybe a little bit on how you initially got into Bitcoin and what made you be active, and what was the thing that really kickstarted your development here.
Sure. I heard about Bitcoin from both my brother and a friend of mine. I think it was on or about the same day. I think it was 2013. At first, I was dismissive, like most people were, because it sounds like such a crazy idea. But then maybe a month or two later, I actually read the white paper and was able to get beyond my own cognitive dissonance and demysticization of money, or essentially demystified what money was, and it seems to make a lot of sense to me. It's more of the people's money rather than something that's created by governments or some non-governmental cabal tightly coupled to the government. So I got really into it philosophically. Kind of felt like it was something that needed to happen, and that seems to be in line with a lot of the decentralizing effects of the internet that we've seen play out so far. Like television, for example, we see television's completely, I wouldn't say television itself is different, but it's now having to compete with online video in ways that it never did have to before. We see the disruption of the media, same sort of thing. So to me, it seemed like a logical extension that that money is something that everyone uses and probably shouldn't be controlled by a small group of people. So I look forward to seeing how this experiment plays out. It's certainly been a roller coaster, to say the least.
Oh yes. Absolutely right. This is a roller coaster ride, and Bitcoin truly is the money for the people and by the people. It's for the individual self-sovereign nodes who want to reclaim their financial self-sovereignty and freedom, right? So absolutely. And you mentioned beforehand that Bitcoin really is this way that you can live your ideology as well, and that the incentives align so well with your ideology as well. So why is it that you are so motivated on actually getting things done here with Bitcoin?
Well, that actually took a little bit longer than I expected. I think I've been too busy with work. I have a son, and just recently I finally got into what I would consider really building on the Bitcoin platform. I had built a trading bot years ago. That was the extent of my Bitcoin programming, if that even qualifies. But a few weeks ago, I went to a Lightning Hack Day in New York City, and I almost immediately met Ben. He was actually the first person I met beyond the event organizers. And we had similar projects. He had a project where he wanted to use Lightning payments to pay for candy from a little candy machine. He calls it a sweet machine. And the night before, it's crazy. The night before, I was like, I really should bring a project. And I had kind of the typical vending machine idea that essentially I think everyone has, not particularly unique. But I have an interest in retro arcade machines. So my son and I built a mini Pac-Man machine. It's just in the other room. I wish I could move this camera over there easily so I could show it. But Ben's video is on your channel, right? So people could see that if they want to see it. But so the last minute I had this idea, what if I could automate Pac-Man credits? So I brought my Raspberry Blitz node, which I had built the week leading up to the event, and I thought maybe I'd use the GPIO pins on that to trigger a switch, essentially to close the circuit and trigger the credit on a Pac-Man machine, just as if you plunked a quarter in the front slot. And then when I got there, I saw Ben had actually already been thinking about how to do this, but with a much more scalable solution. I mean, my idea, I hadn't really thought about the scalability of it, but it would be impractical, of course, to put a node in every machine. What would be much more practical is to have a little hardware device that would interface with the node. So he actually was using these little ESP32 devices, which coincidentally I had a bunch of. I had bought 10 of them. I gave some to my little cousins and stuff for Christmas because they're into programming and robotics. And I used one to create a ticker based on a Reddit post I saw. I got into the Arduino programming about a year before, but it never occurred to me. It's got a Wi-Fi on the chip. It's got Arduino, and this one even has a little display on it. So at the hack day, he and I and a couple other folks who were helping out, really, it was so great because people just kind of jumped in and like found a project they were interested in and then jumped in and helped. And we had a lot of help from a bunch of different people. So Ben ultimately was trying to get a little e-paper display working to show a Lightning invoice, because one of, I guess, the biggest feature requests, according to Christian Decker at least, is the idea of a static QR code for Lightning payments so that people can use them like they use the traditional Bitcoin QR codes and keep submitting payments to that same address. Lightning, unfortunately, is not really structured that way. You need an invoice for each payment. So Ben's solution to this was to have a little e-paper display. And if you watch Ben's video in your channel there, people can see this. Have a little e-paper display which displayed the new Lightning invoice each time, and you scan that new invoice each time you want to pay. Which seems like a great solution. It's pretty low cost. I think his little device costs about $20. I think the e-paper costs about $20, or 10 to 20 for the device, 20 or so for the e-paper, which is a really great solution, and it totally works for that. But I got to start thinking about how you would do a static QR code. So my solution was a little different than his, and it's a little hacky, and I don't know if it has legs or not, but I created a static QR code, and I'll hold it up, and if anybody wants to try to scan that, they actually can. I don't know if you can see this text at the bottom, Max. You can tell me. Do you see the little URL at the bottom?
Yes, yeah. So basically, right, this little QR code is not itself a invoice, but rather it's a regular website URL that leads to your server, which then generates a invoice, and the server, the website, pushes back the invoice to the device that is querying. Is that correct?
That's correct. So and actually the way I updated, originally had a different idea, which was to prefix the data in the QR code to make it clear that this was a URL that would return an invoice. But I thought better than that would just be to have a straight QR code URL that any QR code scanner would know how to deal with, and in essence launch into a browser. So the service behind this URL, essentially what it does is it generates a Lightning invoice, but first it decodes some parameters that are passed to it. And there's a couple different variants. I have one where, here's one, it's my old URL, where, I don't know if you'd be able to see that, but essentially the memo and the amount are embedded in the URL. And that's kind of interesting, and that might work for certain applications. But in my application with the arcade machine, I got to thinking that it would make more sense to have a unique identifier, unique to the machine, embedded in the URL. And then that data would get essentially resolved on the server side, and the price would reside on the server. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But so essentially, there's two ways that this could work. The first way is that you could scan the QR code with a QR code scanner, regular generic QR code scanner. It'll resolve to this URL. You open the URL in a browser, and it will. And actually, why don't I do that?
So right, the thing is that for Lightning Network, every time you need to provide a new invoice, that also declares a routing path. And this means that unlike with regular Bitcoin on-chain transactions, where you just need a private key or the hash, the address of the private key, which you can do without communication. So for example, when you go to Tallycoin, right, you see my Bitcoin address, and you can send a couple Satoshis to there without asking me for my address itself. Once you have it, I can be completely offline and still accept payments from you. Because, well, the other full nodes on the blockchain take care of handling the payment process and verifying. But in Lightning Network, it's different, right? Because you no longer propagate the message that you are sending a transaction to the entire network, rather only to the nodes who are on the routing hops, and of course to the sender and recipient. So in the sense, it's of course much more private, which is good, but it also means that you have to be online. And this is kind of awkward, especially if you continuously have to redo these QR codes. So do you think that the approach that you now have, that you still communicate with the server and the server then hands out the QR code, is this, or the invoice, is this sufficient, or can we still further improve on that?
Well, it can't solve the offline problem, though. Frankly, even with Bitcoin payments, you could generate the payment, but you have to submit it to the network. So to an extent, to pay it, you have to be online. So one party at least has to be online. I think the difference with Lightning is that both parties have to be online all the time. The recipient as well needs to have some software running on their behalf. Do you think I should jump into showing the mechanics?
Oh yes, please do.
Let me show you a little bit. Now I have to figure out how to share. Can I share? Oops. Figure out how to share my desktop. How do we do this? There we go. Screen share, application. Here's the guy. Okay, so here's the, and I could give a different demonstration of this, but this will be a little bit clearer using my desktop browser. So here is my LN nodes net. This is my node, resolves to a service running on my node. I have an endpoint called get static QR, where you provided a memo. In this case, this is my memo, and this is my amount in Satoshis. And so this QR code literally resolves to this URL down here, which you'll notice is different. So the address I'm hitting is what will return me the static QR code. And then you could actually print this, turn it into a sticker, and paste it onto some static device or window. In my case, I'll stick it on my Pac-Man machine. And then when I follow this URL, I'll actually get the invoice. So this is the static URL. When I click it, I now get a brand new invoice, which for some reason it thinks is in a different language. Possibly.
It's in the Bitcoin language.
Yeah. So now this is truly a payable Lightning invoice. So the point is that this is static, but the URL is static, but the invoice is dynamic. So every time I hit this, and I could just refresh it, we'll get a completely different invoice. There we go. And another request to translate that.
But that's really cool, right? Because in that way you can now print out a QR code that looks like any other QR code, and then on your end device, right, on your regular phone, you generate the server generates and communicates to your phone itself the invoice, which then can be used for the regular Lightning payment. That's really neat.
Correct. So, and I can maybe do a little bit of a demo of this. The other thing that I did, and I thought of this at the hack day, but I wasn't able to get it all done in time. I wasn't able to even get the service done in time. I really had very little to present. Thankfully, though, Christian Rutzog motivated me to present my idea, even though it wasn't complete. And I think that is what helped continue to motivate me to actually finish it. So there's two ways that this works. So the first way is if I were to hit that URL with a browser, it returns an HTML page with the embedded QR code. It's presentable to the end user. You could click on it or tap on it from your phone, and it would launch your Lightning wallet. Let me just get prepared for this by relaunching my Lightning wallet. So there it goes. And then and I'll show that. So let me scan that last QR code, which was the static one. So I can kind of show this maybe. Oh, look at that. Wow, that was so fast.
It was too fast. We can't even show how it works.
Even at an angle. Yeah. So here it resolved to the URL. If I click open, it'll open my browser. And now that is actually the Lightning invoice, not the static QR. And if I click it, it brings me right into Eclair, and then I could pay it. And now let me show you something else. If I could hold these up at the same time. This is just a 3D printed box with one of those same devices in it, and it should flash, and you should hear it click. I'm gonna test this. Hope it's plugged in. Oh, demo day. Is this plugged in? Let me just make sure. It might not be plugged in.
Well, the thing is, Lightning transactions are so ridiculously cheap that it doesn't matter. You can just test it again and pay us Satoshi in routing fees.
Let me figure out why this is not. Oh, here we go. Here we go. It wasn't on. The plug was
there it goes.
Here, let me try it again. So let me go back. I can actually go back to my browser and I could just refresh the page.
And every time you refresh the page, right, it generates a completely new invoice. And
now if I press this, launches my Eclair again. I hit pay. There, did you hear the click?
There it is.
The flash. So that registered. Now I'll talk about this in a minute. What I wanted to show though was the other use case. So what I've also done is I hacked Eclair to the extent that I modified the code a little bit. Yeah, it's great that it's open source. I just downloaded it. I added a little bit of code during the QR code scanning process to essentially say if what was scanned is a URL rather than a Lightning address, go visit the URL, expect that there's a Lightning invoice at that. You'll get the Lightning invoice data back, and then just continue on as if you had scanned it directly. It's like a little proxy right in the middle of it. So I'm just going to press my pay with, you know what, I'm going to close this window. I'm going to do it off of this, off of the little printed one I have, because that'll be a little bit more clear that I'm not cheating on screen or something. So I'm going to say scan a URL or scan a QR code. This is the normal payment method. I'm going to scan that one. I don't know if you can see it. There it goes. And without a hitch, just right through. You almost didn't even notice that it happened. And then I hit pay.
Oh yeah, there it is.
So and then actually, I think what would be cooler is to do it again. Let's see. It's the same static QR code. And now if this were the same invoice, if I tried to pay the same invoice twice, Eclair would say you've already paid this invoice. So let me pay this one again. We get another credit. There we go. Now in my son's room next door, I'm hearing like the Pac-Man gulps in the background as I put new coins in the machine. So I explained the static part of it. That's kind of just half of the solution. So the other half are these devices. And so what they are is the microcontroller on the front end that has Wi-Fi. These cost about $10. You can get them for cheaper. I'm trying to buy some other ones that cost about $5. And then they've got like a little $1 relay on the back. And this relay is rated up to 240 volts. So I think these are really created to like turn lights on and off, things like that. So it's very simple wiring. You basically have power, power ground, and then a trigger GPIO, and that simply closes this circuit here. I have a black and red wire. And now in my Pac-Man situation, I plug this right into one of the Pac-Man inputs parallel. It's an emulator machine. It's not a true old school machine. But if this were an old school machine, I could just wire the black and red into the coin switch mechanism. It literally is just a switch on the coin door for when you drop the quarter in. But so software-wise, what's happening here is I'm hitting a different URL, and I can actually show that. Let me switch back over to my browser really quick. Share that. This guy. Okay, so the other URLs I have are get paid invoices. And I pass it the same information, but I also have a way where I can simply pass it the MAC address of this machine. Actually, let me do that. So that's the same. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Get paid invoices. Here we go. It's this guy. So now this this little device. Oh, you can't see it, but the device I showed you, it has its own unique MAC address corresponding to the wireless wireless client in it. Now, what this is simply returning is the recent invoice numbers that have been paid that correspond to data. How do I put this? Correspond to the invoice amounts and memos that are configured for this MAC address. And I can actually get a little bit into that. I don't know how technical you want to get here, but let me just show you that's here.
Well, right, and the really, really cool thing with Lightning Network is that, you know, we don't need a IOTA tangle to do Internet of Things, right? We have these extremely low-powered devices that cost you $10, $20, but they still work, right? And they work with sound money, with Bitcoin, with instant payments, and with trustless payments. So, you know, it's not that we have a fast payment solution now, right? That's not it. It's that our sound money just got instant confirmations. And that is just dope as hell.
Yeah, it's amazing. So essentially the Mac in this little JSON configuration file, which I imagine in the future I could have a user interface to maintain these things, I program in my MAC address of the device, and the device, I could talk about the device a little bit more later. The memo, in this case I'm calling it Pac-Man credit, just an identifier that it could look for later. And then the amount to charge. So these two pieces of information are both used to create the invoice. So they're used on the front end. They're embedded in the invoice that's created, and then on the back end, they're used to identify the invoices that essentially have qualified as payment. That the little device can confirm. In other words, so the little device can say, you know, how many credits have been paid. Let me show it this way too. Let me switch back over to my, just share my whole screen. My screen is huge though. Let me switch back over to my browser. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay that payment again. Can't see me, but I'll pay this payment again. I'm just using my phone. I'm refreshing that static URL. I'm clicking it. And I'm paying. And now notice the last invoice number paid was $379. I don't know if you heard my little click just happened. If I hit refresh, now it's got $384 was paid against that invoice. Now maybe other people are hitting that invoice generator. It might be, or maybe I did. Let me do it again and see if we get the next sequential number, 385. Just generated a new one. I'm paying it. My device clicked, and now if I refresh, I get 385. So now let me switch back over to me. So what my little device is configured to do is to pull that URL using its own MAC address, and essentially it can tell when a new invoice is paid. Every once in a while, an invoice will drop off the back, an old invoice, and it's smart enough to recognize that. So it only responds to new invoices. And the idea would be, and I didn't really get into this, the software I wrote on this, I used a lot of open source because one of the challenges here is that this device has no input. Essentially, can connect to Wi-Fi and it has a screen, but it has no keyboard. So there's a cool project online where essentially you can put an access point on it. So when you first plug it in, you can connect to it with your phone or with a notebook at a known IP address, and it'll actually display the IP address right on the screen. You connect to it. You then use the web interface to connect it to your network, and then on the display, it will actually just display its IP address on your network, which is kind of cool. But that's essentially all you have to do is get it on your network, because it's pre-configured to automatically hit my node or your node, say, and provide its MAC address as its unique identifier. So essentially the installation process, if I were to try to retrofit an arcade, the installation process would be to bring one of these online, connect to it with a computer or phone, configure it to connect to the local wireless network, and then to install it into the hardware. This could be configured with like little clips, just plug right into arcade machines. And then it would be ready and online. On the server side, I would see that a brand new MAC address showed up, a new piece of hardware showed up, and I would tell it what the price was, what to call it so that it's recognizable, and essentially that would be it. So to do something like a retrofit of an arcade would be a relatively simple process. And this is all very, very early. I'd like to build an administrative interface where people can manage the new devices that came online, things like that.
Yeah, that is fantastic, and I'm just always blown away with the ease that you can build this stuff, and with the incredibly low amount of hardware costs that you actually need. It's insane. It truly is. Like, microtransactions are here, and you can get them for a couple satoshis. So that is absolutely. The chat, where is it here? Jake McKay asking, what are you using in the backend? Is it a Node.js RPC, or how does this invoice creation work?
Yeah, actually, why don't I bring it up? And now I'm not really a Node coder, but I took a crack at it. Here's the software so far. Let me know if you can see that well. Yeah. Oh, I have another little function I haven't demonstrated yet. The point of sale is based on something that Ben's working on too. Let me show you some of the operative parts. So here's get static QR, where I pass and I have a couple different endpoints. Here's get static QR with just the memo and amount. In this case, I'm passing the MAC, the memo and the amount. This would be used, say, the first time a device came online. I could just hit this URL with the MAC address, whatever memo I want to associate with it, and an amount, and it will automatically save that on the server as server state. But the working code is right here. Here's where it constructs the address. So it takes the protocol, being HTTP or HTTPS. It takes the host of this server, so whatever you hit, and then create invoice, and then MAC. So that's how I get to my static URL. And there's the other version is just below it, where you can actually, rather than using the MAC address, you could just use the memo and amount. And then this get QR HTML function essentially formulates a web page using handlebars. And it does that. Where did I do this? A tag prefix. That's for if it's a lightning URL. So it puts href equals lightning : and then the QR code data, the lightning data. But where did I do that? Oh, here it is. Base64 QR encoded image. So I use this QR package, QR image, which will take any data and create the corresponding QR code. And then I base64 encode it. Where did I do that? Oh, here we go. Two-string base64. So I encode that, and then you could just use it as an inline image. And anyone visiting the endpoint could inspect the page and kind of see how that works out. But essentially, this is the whole page for both the static QR code and the lightning QR code. I use the same template for both.
That is fantastic, right? And you see, with not even many lines of code, you can make that happen.
Yeah.
So how would you say, from a developer experience, how approachable is it to work with Lightning?
Well, it's ridiculously easy, especially because all I'm doing is automating lncli via command line, and it uses JSON, so that makes things super easy. What I'd like to do is make it use gRPC, though frankly I think that might make the code larger. It's probably more efficient and would scale better, especially on a little Raspberry Blitz PI node. But for a proof of concept, yeah, super simple. There was almost no thinking involved. You just had to know a couple of LN client command line commands, and that's it. So here's the so this is to create the static QR. Here's to actually create the invoice. So this is the first routine I'm showing that interfaces with lncli. So here I basically just grab the memo and amount. In this case, I'm grabbing it from my data file that has it stored by MAC address. I could show you the one let's see, it's down here. Here's the one by memo and amount for create invoice. So essentially, I'm just simply pass the memo and amount as part of the URL. I pull those out. I write those to the console so I can see what's going on. I call lncli add invoice. I give it the amount. I give it the memo. And then I look in the response. Here's the response data, comes through standard out. I parse it, and I get the payment request, which is the invoice itself, and I get the index because I want to output that to the console for debugging purposes. And that the index is what we saw in our get paid invoices call. So this is it. I mean, this is essentially the heart of the code that allows you to have a URL return you an invoice dynamically.
That truly is fantastic, right? And it's a brilliant approach. Because the node has to be online in order to receive the payment. It is completely valid to let the server just send it to you. But still having a way of having a printed out version and a non-changing QR code which you can scan is super useful. And so combining these two, perfect. Why not?
Sure.
But do you think that there is a way of fully encoding a invoice into a QR code without then first calling to the server?
Well, I just watched a talk by Rene Picard.
Amazing videos by Rene. Check him out.
Yeah, he's great. I met him at the Lightning Hack Day, and he talks about a way to theoretically create invoices offline. That said, there's still computing involved, so I don't know if that's possible. I think that they might need to build that as a feature or somehow a repayable invoice amount, but I don't know enough about the underlying structure of Lightning to know for sure if that's possible. This may be a convenient workaround because maybe that's not possible. And the one thing we didn't talk about is, so I hacked my Claire wallet. I also spoke to Tom of the Zap project. His last name is vanished from my brain, unfortunately. And we talked a little bit about if Zap could support something like that. He wanted to understand what I was doing. It's kind of a workaround, and so there may be the possibility this type of thing does actually get integrated into the wallets, which would make this a perfectly valid approach for static QR codes for LN.
Yeah, very cool. And I really like that you can hack this into the existing wallet with just a couple lines of code.
Yeah, really, what's about 20 lines of code.
That is crazy. And by the way, that's why software has to be open source, because amazing engineers like you can go out there and actually change it and fix problems that are there and innovate on top. So that's why the show is called Open Source Everything, because that's what should be done, right?
Yeah.
But then, from a security side, do you see that there's any risk of first having a QR code that then points to a server that then generates the invoice and sends it back? Is there any security trade-offs?
Well, I'm no security expert, but the one that I thought of immediately, Ben and I were talking about, is especially for my arcade scenario, is someone could take their own sticker, obviously, and place it over your sticker. The couple of problems with that would actually be, I mean, I'm surprised people haven't done that with Bitcoin at cafes and things like that. But the problem with that attack surface there is that, one, in that situation, a person would try to pay and it wouldn't work, and you'd think they'd immediately tell whoever the operator was, and they could very easily figure out what happened. Not only that, there'd be a link to whoever this spoofer's site was, though if they were smart, it would be somehow untraceable back to them. But still, they could only ever get one, maybe per machine. It doesn't seem like for a low price situation, it doesn't seem like a very effective hack. Now, for high price, high ticket items, that would certainly be something you'd want to think about. But I think for the applications that most people are considering Lightning for, at least now, it's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I agree with that. And the cool thing might be that you can somehow send like one Satoshi in advance to this static QR code, generate an invoice, pay this invoice, and then see if the money went through. And if the server that you do believe is the correct server sends you back the notification that the payment has arrived, then you can send the other couple Satoshis that you want to send over this or to this node itself.
Sure, and you know what else could be done, and I didn't really go into this too much because I was just trying to do a proof of concept, but the wallet, if this was something that was adopted, the wallet could have its own security features. Like when you scan the QR code, it could ask you, it could say you're visiting this URL, so that you know what URL you're visiting. Right now, it's so transparent, you almost don't know. It shows briefly when you first scan it. But then you could also have like a whitelist and blacklist URLs if you wanted to only allow certain domains to serve you those dynamic invoices. So that's one thing that could be done. The other thing I wanted to show you really quick, and unfortunately I got to run off, but so Ben created this cool thing. It's a hardware point of sale device, which has like a number pad on it and his little e-paper display, and you could type in an amount. The idea being that you go to your convenience store, pick an item, they type in the price, they press pay, it generates a Lightning QR code, and you scan it. So we were talking just last night, and I was like, you know what? I could leverage what I've already built to do something very similar, but with the phone. So I created this little. It's just a web link right now, but I turned it in. I added it onto my home screen. It looks a little bit more like an app. If I click this, it launches this little JavaScript calculator that I borrowed off of the internet, and I can type
open source everything again.
Yeah. It says, I don't know if you can read it, lnnodes.net point of sale, and I can type in any amount I want. There's a 253. I can say pay, and all it does is it launches my same service to show me the Lightning QR code, and then in this case I don't need to scan it. I can just click it. It launches into declare, and I pay. So this is like total. This is actually sitting. This is the first couple lines of code of my node code, where it basically just serves an HTML page from a subfolder, which has the JavaScript to do the little calculator. And when you press pay, all it does is launch you to one of my create invoice URLs with the proper amount at the end, with the memo of POS for point of sale. So I did that in I think it took me 30 minutes, and I got a little proof of concept point of sale demo working. And you can hit that if you go to lnnodes.net/POS if you want to try it out.
Yeah, so that is fantastic, Piers. And again, this is how easy Lightning development can be. It truly is a fascinating system that abstracts a lot of the complexity into the backend. And then with some Java lines of code, you can generate something that is still rather secure. And it works. Like, these are micropayments in action, billions of them every second, for no fee whatsoever. I mean, I've sent so many 1 Satoshi transactions over the Lightning Network already. Not because I paid, I actually want to do something, because it's 1 Satoshi, it's nothing, but because you can. It's insane. It is mind-blowing. It is.
One thing I don't hear a lot of people talking about, I'm sure someone's talking about it, but I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, is, I've as a software developer, I've developed credit card interfaces, e-commerce interfaces, and those things were always a nightmare. The simplicity that I could just download some code off of the internet, and now I'm receiving payments. I don't have to register with a merchant account. I don't have to sign up with a bank. I think we're all seeing it, but I think that hasn't really reached out to the mainstream yet. And when it does, I think that's when we'll kind of see the next big wave, because it's hard to imagine a simpler way to receive payments, and without, the whole point being it's completely permissionless. Anyone can do it whenever they want. You just download some code and use it, rather than having to coordinate with some authority, because exchanging money is deemed to be a special class of software. So I think this really breaks down those walls, and I'll be really interested to see how it evolves over the future. But Lightning, to me, I don't know how people ever doubted it. The whole idea that you could do essentially an unlimited number of payments between two parties, even if you couldn't do routing, that already is pretty huge. Then you add routing into the mix, and to me, it's kind of like the whole, it's almost like packet switch networks versus sort of broadcast networks. The possibilities are much, much bigger. The scale is much, much higher, and privacy, seems like there's going to be much more privacy when you can't tell what those intermediate interactions were. There's no immutable record of every single transaction that happened. It's only the clearing transactions that are stored on the blockchain. So I think the repercussions haven't fully yet been understood by the mainstream.
Oh no! Even we haven't fully understood this, and we're really neck deep into these weaves. But it's insane, and especially the progress that Lightning Network has made is insane. I remember exactly 1 year and 2 days ago, I made my first on mainnet Lightning transaction, and it was a mess, right? Everything in the command line, it was like copy and pasting of some shittily written README on GitHub, and it was a horrible user experience.
Wow.
But you could feel it.
So
You
you
just
got
could
enrolled in
feel it.
December.
Yeah.
Oh
And
man, you beat me. I wasn't up until February. I think I was I was under the 100th. So you must have been really, really in the beginning.
yeah, and I mean testnet before, but that's not reckless.
I see.
but then and now just today, I've made 8 Lightning transactions, 4 or 5 on my phone with literally scanning, pressing one button.
Yep.
That's it.
That's
Instantly done. And a couple with the dual browser extension, which blows my mind every time I use it.
I haven't installed that yet. It looked great. I saw there was a demo at BitDevs NYC. I gave the Pac-Man presentation. My son actually demoed it with this tiny little phone, and he gave a great presentation. I have to download and install that. I also have to download and install Zap. I'm not using Zap. The only wallet I'm using is Eclair, and I have obviously my own 2 nodes. I have a C Lightning and an LND node. Max, I hate to run. I got to go. Maybe we can reconvene at a later date, talk more.
Oh, absolutely. You're always very much welcome here on the World Crypto Network because you're one of the peers that actually gets shit done. And that is something that I truly, truly appreciate. So thank you very much for all the work you put out there. The static QR code is extremely useful. Your point of sale system is brilliant. And I'm really looking forward to the work that you continue to do. And also, thank you very much for helping me fix my laptop, which was really, really nice of you.
Diagnose it. It wasn't too difficult.
Well, yeah, but still, you reached out, you helped. That was fantastic. So I just love our community. So thank you very much for joining. And you got to run. So keep on coding and keep me up to date with what you got.
Okay, thanks very much. I'll get out of here. Here we go. See ya.
So Piers, that was George. Isn't that amazing? I mean, Lightning, it's no longer vaporware. I mean, it really isn't, and it works so beautifully with Bitcoin itself. It truly is a fascinating payment. Nope, just realized that thing is, I'm running on my old laptop still. Although I do have my purism as well here. But yeah, I gotta push on the mouse all the time. Otherwise, the microphone will drop off. So yeah, but Lightning Network truly is fascinating. It leverages the security of Bitcoin on chain, and then it just works. And it is as flawless as pressing one button and getting it done. And even for building on top of Lightning, it's extremely easy. So even if you don't have much coding experience, it's plugins and it's easy RPC calls. It's basically an API. So if you have a couple ideas of how to integrate like free and instant payments into your software, well, I can come up with like 1,001 billion use cases. So get out there and manifest change. Seek to improve the world just a teeny tiny bit, and make this place a little bit better. And I do believe that with Lightning Network, we really can build so much beautiful stuff. And if you see the hardware that was built upon, I mean, it's like a $20 computer. You slap a little screen on there. It's cost another like $10-20. And pretty much you got your point of sale system. Yeah, it's not the most prettiest of user interfaces. The case might only be 3D printed and cheap plastic. But I mean, seriously, like, this is here. It's not vaporware. And the things that you can do with this are mind-blowing. And as George said, it's permissionless. If you have an idea, do it. No one is stopping you. You don't have to ask anyone for permission. Go out there, build something. Stand on the shoulders of the giants who came before us, who have built this amazing protocol. And not just Bitcoin itself, which is in and of itself already mind-blowingly amazing, but now your favorite sound money just got instant payments and cheap, like basically free. I've posted a screenshot on Twitter just a couple of minutes ago, a couple blocks ago. Got to move to block time, and it showed really the issue. Such cheap transactions is that the user interface really has to catch up. Let me pull this up right here, because as you can see right here, these are that I've made not too long ago, probably like the last couple days, and they all show up as 0.0 euros transactions or payment and 0.0 euros fees. Why? Well, because I send one Satoshi, like literally one Satoshi. Do you know how little money one Satoshi is? It's almost nothing. It's a joke. And I paid one Satoshi in routing fees. So it wasn't even a direct payment channel, but rather I had one channel open. It did like 4 or 5 hops. A couple of them did not charge any routing fees. One node charged 1 Satoshi. And that's it. It's insane. You can now buy nothing, like the cheapest amount that you can think of for free, basically. And it's not just that you can buy arcade games, which is in and of itself already amazing, but you can integrate all this stuff very easily into all types of software. I was hanging out with Konstantin Sputnik on Twitter, and he's working on Donner Labs, and he's going to come on the WCN hopefully very soon in person. And it's basically a game, a lightning game. You have this tower defense style game and different waves of enemy coming at you, and the viewers can pay a lightning invoice. If you have a direct payment channel open, it's 0.0 fees. Other than that, you got to pay like 1 or 2 Satoshis in routing fees. And then once you have made that payment, then the next wave of enemies is going to spawn in the live game itself. So now you truly have like interactive gaming that with every single transaction that you make, something happens in the game. And although it is primitive, you can build so much amazing stuff on there. And we all, even like we hardcore Bitcoiners that do pretty much nothing else other than living, talking, and breathing Bitcoin, even we haven't fully grasped what this actually means, let alone the rest of the public. It truly is insane, and it's up to us. Really, there's no one else other than you who can manifest this change, and we have a tremendous opportunity. Sound money is such an important technology for society at large. Of course, it's not everything, right? But it is a vitally important part of society. And we saw that with gold, right? Gold led to a beautiful, prosperous age of several hundred centuries of sound money and prosperity, with a lot of capital accumulation and building. All the amazing stuff that we have currently is pretty much financed by sound money. And the problem with gold, though, is you cannot send a gram, like a milligram of gold instantly across the planet. It's just impossible, unfortunately. But now we have a money that is even more sound, even more hard in its economic policy, which is Bitcoin. And guess what? You can send a Satoshi instantly for free to the other side of the globe. And it's here. Like, we have this. This is a tool that we have, and that we can and we will utilize it. Oh, yes, we will. And if you truly want to support us here in manifesting this change, it's up to you. No one is stopping you. So if you see this stuff that is happening right here, right now, and you're not motivated, I don't know what to tell you. Because really, this is a once in a lifetime, not just even a lifetime, like once in several generations of lifetimes, a chance. It truly is a chance, and we have to take it. And that's why I truly appreciate all of you hanging in there in the chat, and all these amazing builders truly manifesting the change that we want to see in this world. That's fantastic, and I'm absolutely honored to stand along your side here and make sure that well, it happens, and that we can actually manifest sound money and liberty in our lifetimes. And yeah, it's up to us. So get on it, get building. And I want to say, oh, mic dropped out again. I want to say thank you to Rafterman in the chat for the $2 donation here on YouTube. Thank you, really amazing, really means a lot, especially here in the bear market. You heard Thomas, he's kind of down, right? Price sucks. Of course, you know, it sucks losing money, and especially when you then have to sell your precious satoshis in order to well, pay rent and buy yourself the bread that you need in order to sustain yourself. So this sucks, and the support that we get from the community is really, really very much appreciated. So Pierce, yeah, thank you very much for hanging in there and listening to us babbling along here and being little geeks about this amazing technology. And I really still cannot believe this. Although using Lightning Network for a long time now, it still blows my mind every single time that I make a transaction, because it's ridiculous. It's magic. It truly is magic, and not sorcery, not magic that is used to create ill and to harm others. But it truly is magic that has the potential of liberating the minds and the spirits of so many people. And it's up to us. So get motivated. The price is a distraction. It truly is. 2018 has been the best year for Bitcoin, in my opinion, because well, so much has happened, and those that are still around us here now, they actually really they want to be here, and they want to manifest this change. So again, thank you very much for hanging in there and making sure that although price is down, spirits are still up. So it's as always been a very much a pleasure chatting with you. And now I'm gonna let you go and on your way for whatever you're up to. Keep going and keep building and keep manifesting this change. Keep educating peers and onboarding them, because now truly is the time to get onboarded. You know, people are excited about the price when it hits 20,000. They're not so excited about the price when it hits 3,000. But well, it should be the other way around, actually, right? Now you have the opportunity of accumulating a couple more satoshis. And I mean, if you just watch what I've just showed you, like Lightning Network is here. Bitcoin is still producing blocks. There's still no inflation happening. Sound money is still intact. The Bitcoin blockchain doesn't know a price, and neither does the Lightning Network. So, I mean, price really, just get rid of fiat completely. Once you have shed the burden of coercive money, and you truly live in a free economy, I do think that it shifts your priorities. So, now's the time to sell some of these shitcoins and trade with the fools that take the shitcoin fiat and give you the precious sound money Bitcoin. But well, it's mutually beneficial voluntary exchange. So good for them. They need the fiat, and good for you, because you can keep on stacking these satoshis. And by the way, if you don't have payment channels open, you really should open them now. Because transaction fees are still really low at the current moment, because there's no hype right now. We're just here actually building stuff. So fees are low, and fees will get higher. Oh yes, they will. So if you have a couple payment channels open, that comes in really handy. I actually have to fill up a couple more, because I'm blasting through my payment channels because I'm just using it way too much. Actually, Lightning Network is really bad in this one sense, that it gives you the incentive of spending your Bitcoin, because it's just so much fun. And spending sound money is not a nice thing, because it is a tool mainly used for postponing your consumption and postponing the spending. But well, I mean, instant and free transactions, that's really tempting. So if you have the really long planning horizon of not using your Satoshis in Lightning Network payments, well, good on you, because you're still saving them and still hodling them. But damn, I mean, it's just so fun of spending your Satoshis over Lightning. And good thing is, at least you're not wasting purchasing power on fees, which is nice. So you can consume less, but or you can consume more with the same Satoshis that you spend. So Piers, both hodl strong. Don't sell your sound money for shitcoins. And that is, of course, first and foremost fiat, which is the biggest shitcoin of them all. And I mean, if you really want to hedge, go into gold, go into silver, use Voltoro. I mean, they offer Lightning Network payments. Do you know that? You can buy gold with Lightning Network. What? It's insane. You can snipe it off, write the order book. It's so cool. But yeah, Piers, price is a distraction. Don't focus on it. Yes, realize it, understand what a price is as a supply and demand. And it is the purchasing power of the shitcoin, right? The US dollar price is the purchasing power in shitcoin fiat that Bitcoin has. But you can do so much more with your sound money other than purchasing shitcoins. So the price of Bitcoin is not just the US dollar term, right? It's much, much more. So yeah, get over it. Price doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. And I hope you know that. But yeah, I'm babbling on for way too much now. And maybe you got a couple questions in the chat. We have the crypto Sasquatch. Thanks again for sticking through us here, saying that good advice. I don't know. I hope it is, but maybe it is. So of course, don't trust, verify. Right? Don't trust what I'm saying. Not a word. And don't just accumulate the information that I am sharing with you, but accumulate this knowledge from all the places that you can find. And don't just focus yourself on Bitcoin, and don't just limit yourself on Bitcoin. There's a lot more other stuff happening. And yes, Bitcoin is cool as hell. Lightning Network is even cooler. I don't know. Sound money is the killer app, but cheap payments is also nice. But there's a lot of other things to learn. So if you're down with the price, do something else. Accumulate some other information and understand it. Maybe get some coding skills. Right? That's something that Rafterman talked about when he called into the talk show. That he wants to get into coding. That's fantastic. Absolutely, do that. Accumulate all this knowledge. This is the first step, and understand it. And coding and speech and language is a fantastic way of manifesting the change that you want to see here in this world. I mean, we are cypherpunks, right? We are agorists. We rely on voluntary action and peaceful cooperation, and of course, speech and the freedom of speech and the censorship resistant of speech is vitally important for a free society. So absolutely. Learn to code, because this is a powerful language to speak, and Bitcoin, I think, proves that. Bitcoin is code after all. It's much more than just code, but a huge part of it is code, and you can see the power of sovereign nodes, sovereign peers coming together in order to write the software and manifest it by running it on their individual nodes on their hardware. So yeah, learning to code, a skill that I still need to learn and get educated at. Some basic HTML, but that's basically it. Can do like bullets, bullet points, and headers. That's like my coding skills, which sucks. But unfortunately, I don't have too much time because I'm making these videos. I'm manifesting speech in the spoken form, and not in the written language of machines, which hopefully is as powerful as coding is. I hope so. I truly think. So we have a couple of questions. That's nice. Yeah, so we got Jake McKay asking, how can I keep them secure and online? Oh, that's a good question. So Right. Thing is, with the Lightning Network, you have different secrets that you have to keep secret. Right. Non-scarce information that is easily copied and easily shared with many others. And as soon as other people have these secrets, they can utilize your money and use your money. And according to consensus rules, so it's no theft, right? So those that have the private keys and the hash key images, they control the money. So nothing else you can do about it. That's just how Bitcoin works. So keeping these secrets secret, occulted, is a tricky path. And of course, with on-chain transactions, right? With the classical Bitcoin, we have the cold card wallet. That's how you can keep your funds securely offline, and that is a cool tool. However, no hardware wallets yet, no offline wallets where you can keep your secrets offline and not connected to the internet. People are working on that. Stefan is working on that. He had some amazing presentations, both in Prague on the main stage, and of course at the WCN. He introduced his ideas for a hardware wallet. He also has a talk at the Munich Bitcoin meetup, where he just goes a bit more into depth on how to make hardware wallets happen for Lightning. It's tricky. I don't think that there is a solution. And that's actually something that some peer of you in the chat was saying. Like, what is there to still work on? Who was that? Jay Lucid was that. What are the challenges left to overcome? Hardware wallets. I do think that is one of the main challenges. So if you have an idea, please tell us all. Because once you share your idea, once you share this information on how we could utilize hardware devices to keep our secrets secure, once you have shared the information, we can all utilize it and build upon it. So please get active, get involved. That's amazing. Oh yeah, by the way, I usually don't do this, but I probably should. Smash a like, honestly, it really helps a lot. Leave a comment, be active in the chat. Tell your friends, share this information, not just the WCN. Like I'm having the Block Digest chat on the left side here on my screen, because Block Digest is another amazing YouTube channel that you really should follow. Accumulate this information, right? Don't just trust one source, get many of them. So be active, that really helps a lot. Tell a friend, and support these content creators. Of course, Tallycoin is a nice place to be. So if you want to support me on Tallycoin, tallyco.in/HillebrandMax. Unfortunately, even though after I think 45 episodes every single day for the last 45 days, still none has sent a couple Satoshis on the Tallyco Hillebrand Max website to get the early access for these videos, which is okay, right? I mean, Pierre's like, you got me this amazing Purism laptop right here, which is dope as hell. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, if you want to show some of your support, of course, Rafterman did that in the chat here with the $2 donation. That's fantastic. It truly is appreciated, not needed. We're not in it for the money. At least I am not, because Bitcoin is much bigger than just money. Money, after all, is just a tool, and it's not that important. I mean, it's cool to have, and especially a sound and voluntary-based money is quite important. And stopping to use fiat money is even more important. So we need to provide alternatives. It's really, really powerful. But I, for 100%, am not in it for the money. Though, of course, it's nice for me to know that I can eventually do this full-time and dedicate even more of my attention, which is the most precious currency that you have, the mon eye, the single eye, your attention, your focus on where you seek to manifest change. That is the currency of the universe, which is so much more powerful than all the man-made and even protocol-based consensus monies. So where you dedicate your time and your attention is very, very important. And this is why I am in Bitcoin, not for the money, but in order to manifest the change that I do seek. And of course, this is liberty for me. And Bitcoin is a tool that can bring us liberty, which I am willing to pay any price for. So yeah, not in it for the money, but absolutely it helps. So thank you very much for your support. Our Sky Car. Oh yeah, Sky Cars. We need that. And paying for every trip in the Sky Car with Lightning payment. That would be cool. Yes. Could you bring the topic how to run the full Lightning node and how to deal with it in the next show? Oh, yeah, that's actually really, really cool. You know, I like to focus on solutions, on really how to be active and make sure that this actually, oh yeah, how you can use this technology is what I like to focus on, and that's why I like to bring on the developers who actually work on this and show you the things that are possible. But yeah, a step-by-step tutorial on how to set up a Lightning node, absolutely, we really should do that. There is, and okay, wait, I have to pull that up and really share this with you, because there is. Dropped again the mic, horrible. The 402 payment required YouTube channel is breathtakingly awesome. That peer really knows what he's doing. 402 payment required. There it is. Sharing it in the chat right now. And he has only 184 subscribers, which truly is a shame. But he has now 25 videos, in-depth videos, on how to work with Bitcoin. Like he starts from the very basics on how to set up your virtual machine, your virtual Linux machine, and then how to set up your Bitcoin full node in the command line, then how to make a transaction, how to use Electrum and use it with your hardware wallet. And I learned so much from him. Like truly, although he has done only 25 videos, like every single one of them, I can only recommend to you to watch several times. No voiceover, unfortunately, because he does not want to give away his voice. Well, true cypherpunk. But yeah, absolutely worth it. So check him out. 402 payment required. He has in-depth videos, like 4 or 5 of them, just alone on the Lightning Network. Absolutely, very, very valuable information. So yeah, and further on how to run a full node. Well, I have right here, right, the Raspberry Pi, which I've showed you countless times. And this is a really nice way of running a full node and doing it on a dedicated, always-on device. The thing is, Raspberry Pi just doesn't have enough power. So I encourage you to look into something like the nodl.it, which I'm like the #1 fanboy, which is basically just Raspberry Pi on steroids. And Kato Miner, Michelle, who has been on the World Crypto Network several times now, and who I've been chatting to every single day, a phenomenal peer. He truly knows what's up. And he has made a really cool interface of running a Bitcoin full node and Lightning node with one click. Like literally, you plug in the nodl in your router so it has internet, and in your power socket so it has electricity, and you press one button. Then it compiles Bitcoin D from source. So nothing is on the board when you get it. You compile it from source. You download every single block, and you verify every single block yourself. It doesn't come pre-installed with the blockchain, pre-verified with the blockchain. So yeah, that's just a really nice way of running Lightning in an easy fashion. So yeah, really, really cool. Yeah. Okay, we got Jack Schrader asking, Fidelity Investment will be coupled with crypto trading from Eris X in 2019. Fidelity has over 26 million clients and has 2.5 trillion assets under management. Well, yeah, I mean, these institutionals are huge and they got a shit ton of money. How did they get that? Well, by printing it. They are rich in fiat money. And you become rich in fiat money when you are the master of fiat money. And these huge financial institutions have, in my opinion, stolen a lot of this wealth. So honestly, I'm not too excited and really not interested in then coming to Bitcoin and using this. Of course, I mean, Bitcoin is for everyone. And as long as you provide value to the network, you will gain Satoshis. And nobody can stop you from doing that. That's the entire point. But will I support them? No, not really, to be honest. These institutions don't necessarily want you to have control over your money. They would like to represent you. But I do not like to be represented. I present myself as a free and sovereign individual, a undivided person. And, well, no, I hodl my keys. Absolutely. And I, of course, run my own node because that's how you truly and trustlessly use this network. So yeah, I mean, these other institutions can use Bitcoin, but that's not exciting. They have been in control of the money supply for a long time. I'm much more interested in giving you the power to control your own money, right? Sovereignty. Don't let yourself be represented, but present yourself. But yeah, they will come. Everyone will come to Bitcoin. Sound money is just too powerful to ignore it. It truly is. Jack Schrader. Oop, again, microphone. He asked, what happens when a small percentage of that goes into Bitcoin? Yeah, the price goes up. I mean, Bitcoin is a damn useful currency. When people value it as a store of value, medium of exchange, and unit of account, well, yeah, price goes up. But again, man, price doesn't really matter. It really is not about the price. The fiat price, the shitcoin price, it doesn't. Yeah. It is important because of financial self-sovereignty. So what happens when these institutions buy Bitcoin? Nothing changes for me. I run my own node. I control my own keys. I own Bitcoin. And they cannot take this away from me. They can try, or they have tried, and they continue to try this. And well, Bitcoin is under attack 24/7. That's good because it's an anti-fragile system and it thrives on this volatility. Read the anti-fragility from Nassim Taleb. A must read for every Bitcoin. The volatility of the price is important to Bitcoin. That's the entire point. The more volatile Bitcoin is, the better. It has a convex response to volatility. That means the more you shock the system, the more it grows and strengthens, and it gains in value. So I love this volatility in all aspects of Bitcoin. We need it. That's how we keep on the edge. That's how we keep on improving. That's how we don't slack. That's why fiat sucks. It's an extremely fragile system, and it has to rely on stability. Well, I'm not in it for stability. I'm in it for freedom, and freedom is not stable. It's in a sense chaotic, and in that I don't mean evil in us at all, but it is unpredictable. And this unpredictability is what makes freedom so compelling. So, yeah, absolutely. Volatility will continue. It will go up and down in all aspects. But the important aspect is the financial self-sovereignty and the economic hardness and resiliency of this network. So, yeah. ETFs and institutions can come in, they will. Well, but I still run my own node, and I welcome all the peers that play according to my rules. And of course, I run consensus rules, so no Bcash. Jake McKay asks, is it safe to use Docker volumes? What's the current state of recovering channels? Oh yeah, Docker volumes. So again, like here, I'm a huge noob. As soon as it gets into the technical side, I try to understand as much as possible. But it's difficult. So let me pull this up because I asked that in the Wasabi chat. I just need to find it. Is it okay? I don't know. Docker. No, okay. Well, sorry, I can't find this now on the fly. But yes, there are some issues with Docker in the sense that these are reproducible builds, and this means that a lot of the software, a lot of the code can be. Well, not to be honest, I'm not going to explain it because I don't truly understand it, and that means that I don't want to convey something that is false. So I'll better shut up and direct you to the people who actually know how Docker works. I do think that there are some issues with Docker, especially in the security aspect. But yeah, I'm not 100% certain. And Nopara speaks very greatly of Docker. Wasabi is built on Docker, and apparently it works pretty damn good because you don't have to rely on outside software. And I think there are only like 2 or 3 softwares that are not himself, that are not built by Nopara and the team as for Wasabi. So quite a reliable build. We have Kenshiro Dark. How many payment channels can you have running on one node? Well, that's a beautiful thing. As many as you like. Like that's really cool, right? With just like you can have as many addresses on your Bitcoin node or on your phone, on your wallet as you like, you can open as many payment channels as you want. Because it's just a multi-sig on the blockchain. You open a multi-sig payment channel, and once you have that open, you can you can enter the network. One is enough to have access to most of the network because it has like I think 20 hops in the route is the standard. Might be that you can do even more hops. Not entirely sure, but yeah, you can reach pretty much a lot of the other nodes with 20 hops. Thing with payment channels though is that if you only have one open, then and your counterparty, so you have your Alice and you have a channel open to Bob, right? You can of course send many payments to Bob individually, as it is within the payment channel, but then you rely only on Bob to be connected to Charlie and David and all the other peers in the network. So if you only have one payment channel, then Bob is your single point of failure. If Bob goes offline, well, you are no longer connected to the rest of the network. So it does make sense from a resiliency point of view to keep several payment channels open. Because if one party goes down, you can still use the network. And then further, especially when we have stuff like atomic multi-path routings. That means that you can pay that Alice can pay to David 1 Bitcoin, but not over one route, but over 5 different routes. So that every route sends 0.2 Bitcoin, and they all reach David, and they reach David in a way that either David gets 1 Bitcoin or he gets nothing. So there's no state where only half of these routes reach David. Really cool, helps really a lot with liquidity, because especially for larger transactions, it happens quite often that you don't finish your payment route because, well, some party in the chain or in the hops does not have enough liquidity because, well, they only put a couple Satoshis in their payment channel. So yeah, several payment channels is really useful. Absolutely. Oh yeah, but all that thing hopefully soon will be abstracted into the backend. So when we have stuff like Rene Picard is working on really hard, doing great work, really phenomenal guy, and he's working on the autopilot, so that all this channel opening and channel management, which is liquidity management, cash flow management, is abstracted to the backend because it is complex as hell. It's really not easy at all. So yeah, hopefully this gets abstracted, and hopefully a beautiful user interface like the SAP wallet takes place for that. I mean, with automating all this stuff, we see this, for example, on chain with the fee payments. It's tough to calculate what the correct fee is that you need, because you kind of have to predict the future. And I think channel management is of a different level of difficulty, because you truly have to make sure that the payment, or that you have a well-balanced payment channel, that you can both send and receive payments, right? And it's not an easy problem. I'm definitely not smart enough to fully understand it. But yeah, it's tough. It really is. Hopefully, software can take this over and be a tool that we can utilize in order to make Lightning much more easy and approachable. So yeah, absolutely. But I'm more than confident that we can handle this. Why? Because the smartest minds that I have ever met are working on the problem. So yeah, really not something that I worry about, but definitely it's something that I think about, and you should too, because we all are in this together, and it is open source software. And if you use it, this means it is your responsibility of making sure that it works, right? So just thinking about it, and maybe you find the right solution. It's damn compelling to work on this stuff and to break your mind about it. So absolutely. So, okay, Jake asks again, what is the current state of recovering channels? Another really interesting question. So, beautiful thing with the Bitcoin blockchain is that there are several 100,000 individual full nodes on the network that that make a backup of every single transactions that you make, right, on the blockchain. So you don't really have to worry about recovering the state of your UTXO, as everyone else is doing that, and of course you should as well. So you only have to take care of the private keys, right? Your access code to these UTXOs, and that can of course be done with a mnemonic seed and a hierarchical deterministic wallet structure. So you have the famous 12, 18, or 24 words that generate all the private keys, all the passwords to all your accounts. Super convenient as a backup. Lightning is a bit different. You have the same hierarchical deterministic wallet structure for keys, especially because you handle on-chain funds as well. And the opening and the closing transactions are, of course, signed with elliptical curve digital signatures. So you have public and private key pairs. And these are backed up with a 24 mnemonic word or phrase. And you can thus back up the opening transaction easily, just as you can back up any other transaction, regular on-chain transaction. But then you shift the state of this payment channel with another type of secret, which is the hash pre-image. So basically just a random string, but it's not an elliptical curve, but rather a SHA-256 hashing algorithm, and or pre-image. And this is more tricky to back up, and you need to have not just these hash pre-images, but also the history of them, and the penalty transaction, the revocation transaction, and the current state of this multi-sig. And this is not as easy to back up because it is dynamic. So currently you can do this on a cloud storage device. For example, you can use Google Drive or something where you encrypt your data and put it on there as a backup. You can do that, of course. You can do it on your own hardware device, which is even better. You should do both probably. And then you can back up the current state of your payment channel. It's possible. Again, that's another problem that we really need to solve. In the early days, for every on-chain transaction, you generated a completely new, independent, random private key and generated the public key out of that. And that means that after 100 transactions, you had to generate a new set of 100 private keys and thus do a whole new backup of these 100 private keys. So for a lot of backups, tough to handle. Now we have 24 words and that's it. So increase the usability of on-chain transactions tremendously. And I'm quite confident that the same will happen in the Lightning Network. So yeah, hopefully. But again, that's another problem that needs fixing, and engineers and sovereign individuals can and will fix it. I gotta drink a sip of my mate tea here. Amazing mate tea. That's actually a pumpkin right here that is used as a drinking vessel. Delicious tea. Talking. Okay. A couple more questions. Rafterman again, thanks you again for your support. Amazing. Do you guys have a learning channel for those wanting to learn coding? Oh yeah, learning coding. Want to do this and really good. Yeah, do it. Absolutely. There are several courses that I've heard are good. Verified, because unfortunately I can't code, but there are some Python classes that are really worth looking into apparently, and I would just try to accumulate all the information from a wide array of different sources. Specifically for Bitcoin, Mastering Bitcoin by Andreas Antonopoulos to start, which everyone should read, even if you can't code. I mean, I've read it. I couldn't understand some of it. I did understand rather a lot. I was surprised on how much you can understand in this book without any coding experience. But still, right, accumulate the knowledge, try to understand it. So Mastering Bitcoin is a nice resource for this. There are many help groups online, go to Slack. The Lightning development community on Slack is amazing. And ask your questions there and engage in discussion. Read the mailing list. That's something that I just recently subscribed to. I have been reading the Bitcoin mailing list for a long time, and it really helped me. And the Lightning mailing list is just as phenomenal. You can curate so that you can get one email every single day, which means that you just all of this from the first email. This is really, really in-depth information and difficult information. But accumulating this information is always the first step. And then you try to understand it. You will not understand everything on the first try because it's not easy. It just isn't. Accumulate the information, try to understand it. And when you do not understand something, contemplate it. And contemplation is truly a powerful tool. Just think about it. Focused, but not forceful. I really should do a couple of videos on contemplation because this is a very powerful technique. And meditation is something that helped me a lot in understanding all this because it helps you clean up the mind and remove all the clutter. This is again, I mean, I'm really not a coder, so I give you really valuable information on that. But accumulate the information, try to understand it with contemplation and meditation, and ask questions. Ask so many questions. I mean, that's why I'm doing the Q&A session here. Ask as many questions as you can. And find mentors. For example, Nopara, Adam, who's working on the Wasabi wallet, has babysitted me and has answered hundreds of my questions regarding Chaumy and CoinJoins and how Wasabi wallet works. And I still haven't understood it because it's like high-level complex cryptography. And it's not easy at all. But I would say that I have quite a decent grasp of this technology now, and I do understand a lot of it. And I can help others now on the path of reaching this understanding. And I still have 1,001 questions that I ask several different people. But look for mentors and ask questions in the community. You would be surprised how open this community is when you seek the information. But this is something that has to come from you. Nobody can make you understand. We can only support you in your path to understanding by providing information in a nicely packaged format. Ask questions, like so many questions. That's key. That truly is key. And then act upon this information and your understanding of it. Actually manifest change. Do shit with it. Don't just watch YouTube videos. That's cool, but that's just accumulating the information. But don't just sit there contemplating it and trying to understand it. Yeah, that's also important. But then once you have understood it, go out, use it, be active. Because only that is wisdom. That is how you achieve wisdom, by action, doing shit. And that includes, but is definitely not limited to, teaching. I spoke about that in the last show here, the call show, talking show. I think that was even in the call with you, Afterman. Teach it. Talk to people. And talking, your voice is a powerful, powerful instrument. And not only in changing the minds of others by providing information that they can use in their path of understanding, but also in helping you to understand this fully. Although the trivium of accumulating information, understanding it, and acting upon is a stepwise progression, it does not exclude itself. It's a intertwined system. So when you accumulate the information and you sit down and understand it, you will, in this process of understanding, accumulate even more information. And then when you act upon this understanding, you will understand it even further. And because of that, again, accumulate more information. So although this is a stepwise progression, one does not at all exclude the other. Teach in your local community. teach to your peers and raise them in their level of consciousness and understanding. That is vitally important. And it has helped me a lot. Like doing all these videos, doing one video every single day, doing live streams as often as I can, several times a week. I have learned so fucking much. It's insane. It truly is insane. The last year has been a wild ride of education and enlightenment, ultimately. And I cannot recommend you enough to search for your peer group and teach them. Well, if you want to come on the World Crypto Network, reach out, be active. We need all the support that we can get. And if you want to teach others, either do your own YouTube show, do your own podcast, or do your own meetup groups, or join someone that has already done that. That's what I did. I didn't build up this channel. I came in late, pretty much. Already had like 60,000 subscribers. Already had an audience. And yeah, drinking, yeah, but still, we're doing our work. We're advancing our knowledge. And you can use the platform of others in order to support the platform, of course. I do believe that the work that I'm doing here is of value to the World Crypto Network. But also, I reach a lot of value off the World Crypto Network. You know, I'm talking to the most amazing people. And that is both of a tremendous value to me. It is selfish in that regard, absolutely. I take away a lot from these shows that I'm doing. Of course, that's one of the big reasons why I'm doing it, because I learned so much. And of course, it's a way for me to giving back. So yeah, teach. That really is important. Rafterman also says, you give more value, Mac. Thank you. Well, yeah, value is this tricky concept. What is of value? And yes, it's scarce goods, right? It is like the food that you eat, the shelter that you have. Like it's all that, absolutely. That is of value. But also information, right? As I said, that's the path towards enlightenment, is sharing this information. And I do believe that it has tremendous value. Absolutely. The Crypto Sasquatch also says that the Raspberry Blitz is a great place to start. Absolutely, like that's it. I'm running the Raspberry Blitz here, and not the Raspberry Blitz software. I compiled it myself, but yeah, you can do it. A Raspberry Pi is slow though. Takes over a month, if at all, you are able to sync the blockchain. So it's tough, not easy, but doable. Raspberry Pi is dope. If you want something that's faster, syncs the blockchain in 24 hours. Well, the Noddle is a good place to start. Yeah. Our Sky Car says again, is it safe for personal data to run for personal data to run Lightning Channel on a PC, or should it be better to build a PC for that purpose? Well, I mean, you have your private keys and the hash pre-images stored on your hard drive, right? And that means that you have the secrets that give you access to your money on your hard drive. So it is a hot wallet in that regard. Further, you are always online, especially at the point of making the payment, and especially when you're routing payments. When you're routing payments, then you tell the entire network, this is my IP address, this is how much money I have, and well, here I am. Come and take it. So this is a dangerous position to be in. And yes, OPSEC really has to be improved. And that's why, of course, that's why a hardware wallet is so important. Like having a way of securely storing your private keys and information is a very important aspect. It's not yet solved, but is it secure? Well, it's still reckless. I think the main issue here is not theft. I don't think that money has been stolen on the Lightning Network. It's more crashes in the software, because it is very, very early software. Bitcoin is still pretty much an experiment, and Lightning very much so is. So I think the biggest risk is that your software crashes, that you do not have a backup of the current state of your payment channel, and then either the other party can close the payment channel and shift the money back to his address, or when you have lost access to the current state of the payment channel, that the other party simply doesn't tell you about it, and then you're kind of screwed. So yeah, this is it's a peculiar situation. It's not easy, but well, be reckless. I mean, and test it out. That's why testnet is for. I run more testnet payment channels than I have on mainnet still, because well, losing satoshis suck. And so far, I mean, good thing is that I have not yet lost any satoshis whatsoever. But still, I don't want to do that. So yeah, Raw Power says, what do you think about Armory? I have used it briefly, not much though. I know that it was one of the first wallets, lightweight wallets, was a pioneer in simple payment verification, and they were early in adopting stuff like the anonymous seed, and of course did a lot of good work for Bitcoin. Absolutely, I think it's one of the better wallets. I am not certain if it is still well maintained, and that is important because there are a lot of bugs in this software. Of course, code is never perfect, speech is never perfect, and wallets really have to be actively maintained. So I am very comfortable with something like the Electrum wallet, which again pioneer in its own. Like, I think 2011 was when Electrum started, and it is still very well maintained. And the Green Address wallet is something that I truly like as well, especially the new upgrade coming by Larry Newman, who is the chief. Larry Newman is the chief architect officer at Blockstream now, which is fantastic. Congratulations, Larry! That is amazing. And he also has open sourced the entire code for the Blockstream.info block explorer and the API, which is fantastic. So Blockstream continues to amaze me with all the amazing code that they're bringing out there. And Larry is a fantastic peer who has been on the World Crypto Network. We did a couple interviews in Riga with him. A great guy. And I really want to get him back on the WC, and hopefully soon. So yeah, Armory, I do believe is cool. Haven't looked too much into it, so I cannot speak with true certainty here. And yeah, as always, do your own research. Don't trust me with this stuff. I'm a complete noob. Raw Power asks again, or he says again, in Armory, they have an option to do offline payments. I wonder how they do that. Do you mean like offline on-chain payments? Your private key is not connected to the internet. And you can do the signing completely offline, especially when you have partially signed Bitcoin transactions. Your wallet software on your laptop does not have the private keys, but they know the UTXOs that you have available, and they know your addresses that you want to spend the money. And so they set your inputs, they set your outputs, and the fee that you want to pay, and they build a partially signed Bitcoin transaction. That's BIP 174. And then you can put this partially signed Bitcoin transaction on a cold card wallet, right? Well, with the SD card, and then you sign this transaction here on the offline device. And then the signed transaction, which cannot be malued and changed, you then put on your hot computer, which is connected to the internet, and then you broadcast the payment. So this is a complete offline signing, but still the broadcasting of the transaction has to be done online. Again, there is a fantastic video by 402 No Payment Required, link in the chat, who has done some in-depth videos on how to use the cold card with Electrum. Amazing, dude. That dude has taught me so much. Really, really great peer. I love Electrum. Raw Power again says, I love Electrum. It's the best. They also adopted SegWit very early. That's cool. Yes. That's really how you know if the if the wallet is legit. If they have a bunch of shitcoins and still to this day don't support SegWit, I wouldn't trust them, honestly. Because SegWit is the special kind of magic. And I mean, if you're not using it, I think like the BIP was proposed by Peter Woolley, in 2014 or something. A lot of peer review, and then it was finally implemented and merged into the code. We fought a war to get SegWit activated with the user-activated soft fork, in what, August 1st, 2017. So it's over a year old now, almost 1.5 years running on Bitcoin. And I've been using SegWit addresses since August 4th. That's the day where I sold my Bcash and moved all my Bitcoin to SegWit, and never looked back since. Because, well, it's fucking amazing. Yes, on-chain sort of like, but hardware wallets do. Okay. So yeah, I do believe, Rothbard, that you're talking about partially signed Bitcoin transaction, which I know, and I do recurrently on a wallet. I do not know if I don't know if Armory supports this, but they are, as far as I know, a really good wallet software. So yeah, verify for yourself. But I think it's a cool software. The Crypto Sasquatch says that offline signing is so cool, and yep, I agree. Pretty much, yeah, you summed it up. And we got George, who just who joined us in just a couple minutes ago in the chat now as well. So hi there, George. And he says, "Get in touch with to Gesternair on Twitter." So yeah, reach out to these peers. I mean, Ben, a BTC Socialist, has made some phenomenal videos. And he introduced me to George. And I mean, I was blown away by the amazingness of the static QR code and, well, the simplicity of this little hack. So yeah, we talked a bit. And he's a cool. He's approachable. I know him for like what, a week, maybe two, but still, like, we're Bitcoiners. Like, we have a lot in common, and it's always fun talking to you all. And that's how it goes. So yeah, Pierce, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Long conversation already. Oh yeah. Says a guest that said he wanted to start a brick and mortar Lightning arcade in Canada, and that is fantastic. So I think George lives in the northern part of the States, so maybe you can meet up in Canada. So yeah, absolutely, cool. Get together, connect, and build stuff. Build the arcade. It sounds fantastic, honestly. So yeah, Pierce, thank you for hanging in there. And thank you for smashing the like button. Thank you for telling your friends and teaching your peers. That is much more important than all this. Thank you also for being active in the chat and interacting, asking the questions, which is key, right? I really want to support you in your path of understanding. And asking questions is really important. So keep on doing this, keep on accumulating information, and be active. Not just here in the chat, on Twitter. Also reach out to the community. Be active on Slack. Ask the questions, give support, answer the questions that you can answer, and teach and manifest the change. Because it's all about action. I mean, if you are still here in the bear market, then you are not in it for the price, I think. So you understand the power of Bitcoin, right? You have accumulated this information. You have understood it, at least some of it. Well, now get to work. Like, do shit. It's that simple. And then we can actually make this happen. And sound money and liberty in our lifetime. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So Pierce, that was a cool show. We had George on showing his amazing static QR code, which links to a survey that then generates the invoice. Really cool hack around. So you can print this QR code, slap it on any arcade machine, and you derive a new invoice every time out of that. Really, really cool. And yeah, after that, little rambling on so that you have some more content here by me, and some questions in the chat. That's really cool. Raw Power asked to get the link for the Electrum. Yeah, I'll absolutely do that. Uno momento. Two laptops. That's so confusing. But yeah, again, do 402 payment required truly is a phenomenal payment channel. Phenomenal YouTube channel that you really should seek in order to get some information, because it is really fascinating. So there it is. In the chat. And yeah, Raw Power also says, "I love video, Max. Thanks for all the good work." Well, thank you very much for the feedback. It really, truly means a lot. And yeah, thanks you for hanging in there. George also says, thanks for having me, Max. Great show. I agree. It's amazing chatting with you all the that microphone is killing me. It's not the microphone; it's the software. Hopefully, I can get that fixed somehow. Don't know how though. So yeah, Piers, thanks for joining me here again on Open Source Everything, and this little Q&A session, which was nice. And yeah, I think we pretty much said it all here. See you again tomorrow with the next chapter on Read Rothbard. No, on Bitcoin to the Max for the next chapter of Rothbard's fantastic book, What Has Government Done to Our Money, where he explains everything in Bitcoin in 1964. I mean, that Pierre has predicted like Mt. Gox, and that Roger was shilling Mt. Gox just before it collapsed. He predicted individual peers hodling. He predicted software developers working independently on all this code. He predicted the hodling and the decreasing of the time preference. And I mean, read Rothbard, you truly understand Bitcoin. That's the information that you need, at least that I needed in order to understand Bitcoin. So yeah, learn. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. But yeah, now I'm really going to stop rambling. And Piers, see you on the next show. Bye-bye.